Thursday, 11 August 2022, and today is this and that and what a fuck. I'm going to talk about Ukraine and NATO sanctions, but I want to start this with this message. Not a message, that's just a slogan that was being thrown at us the past 2-3 years. You will own nothing and will be happy. And that is a WEF slogan. And it is well published and well documented. And what is stunning me is that the population of the West is taking it and don't pay attention. In the meantime, they're implementing it. And we were locked down in our houses and we were happy. And now, happy about what? Happy about not dying? Happy about not being able to work? Happy about what? And yet, they tell us we were happy. People took the shots and they were happy. And now they stand in the cemeteries and they look around at their friends and family. And I wonder if they're still happy. But they were happy to hold out their arms. Why were they happy? Because we were told that if you do it, you are going to be safe. So they were happy. Happiness is overrated. Common sense is in short supply. But remember when Russia tackled the Ukraine back in February? And we were told the Russians invaded and attacked Ukraine. Ukraine was the victim. And there were many people that said, no, it's wrong. But that narrative was never promoted by the media. The narrative was Russia bad, Ukraine good. And in spite of all the information that came out and was available, if you were willing to dig a bit, that Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and they were busy with dodgy things there in all those labs, and there was massive corruption and money laundering and human trafficking, and then there's the question mark that I still have in my mind. Why the hell is the American politician so committed to keep Ukraine standing? Why? What have they invested there? What is in there that they don't want the world to see? There must be something serious there, because $90 billion later, and they're still pumping arms and ammunition in there, and they're still paying the salaries of the civil servants, and they still pay the salaries of the armed forces. Why? What is in there? What is in that country? And then we get this message that comes out from a soldier that was captured by the Russians. Captured Ukrainian soldier admits Ukraine was getting ready for an offensive on Donbass and on Russia before Russia took matters into its own hands, and it was relying on the West to help. And if you see on that screenshot I took there, the caption there, they were saying we shouldn't allow the Russians to be the first to attack. And there you have it. But did you see this on your TV? Did you see this in your newspapers? No. You saw it here on Skidmarks now. And then there's this. Now they can forget about it forever. 8 years of genocide in Donbass will never be forgotten or forgiven. Crimea will also always remember how Ukraine deprived it of electricity, water, communications. They've been outside the law for a long time. And this is something that many of you that are watching me will most probably don't know, that Ukraine cut the fresh water off to Crimea. And that strangled the Crimea Peninsula to such an extent that their farming basically died and their tourism dried up. And the people were struggling to have water, fresh water. But yes, Ukraine is good, Russia is bad. And now we come to the Green Deal. This is what makes their green agenda so ridiculous. We already import so much electricity, but they want everyone to have an electric car and a heat pump, so their demand for electricity will soar. And this is what I want to know. They don't even have enough electricity to guarantee you a constant supply for your fridge, or for your oven, or for your kettle, or for your heater, or for your air conditioner. But they want everybody to go for an electric car. Why? because these electric cars is programmable, and in there you will be happy world that they see for you, and you will own nothing that they also see for you. They will have a switch in which they can switch your car off anytime, wherever that car is on the globe. Remember that. And now with NATO. NATO made a post. The price we pay as the EU, as NATO, is the price we can measure in currency, in money. The price they pay is measured in lives lost every day. So we should stop complaining and step up and provide support. Full stop. And who are these guys? Who are this they that they talk about? You, the citizens of Europe. You must just buckle up and take the shots. Hello, working class citizens of Europe. Is fuel expensive? Is energy expensive? Are foods expensive? Cost of living expensive? Stop complaining and work harder. Pay the price and shut up. Now there you are. You must now be happy to suffer. You will suffer and you will be happy. And you chose that. You gave that Ursula von der Crazy and her cabal all the power to do this to you. And the NATO leadership is now confirming that you will suffer, but you must be happy about that. And here is that talk from Stoltenberg, which I quoted earlier. And all I can say is, read that, and if you're a European, smile and be happy, because you must suffer and be happy. And then we get to this one. NATO does not seek to confront Russia and is not a threat to it. The US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Austin was speaking at a presser at Riga after meeting Latvian officials to discuss security issues in the region and the importance of continuing to support Ukraine. And the man is lying, and we know he's lying. And anybody with a half a brain knows that he's lying. And anybody with an IQ higher than room temperature knows he is lying. And the Americans, they are instigating Latvia to be stupid and be happy about it. Because Russia can take Latvia off the map in no time flat. And then they can say, look, Russia is the aggressor. But if the Latvians think the Americans will get involved in a ground war with Russia over Latvia, like Alexander says, I've got a bridge to sell. And then we get this fantastic news for NATO. US-made Javelin missile launchers perform below expectations in Ukraine. Internal documents from the Javelin manufacturer Raytheon shows that its weapon combat effectiveness in Ukraine is lower than expected. Papers reveal that only 3 from 11 test launches managed to hit their stationary target. Furthermore, despite it being advertised that Javelin's effective launch distance might approach 5 kilometers, internal documents show that the number is 2 times lower in reality. And there was many posts on the chat groups about how bad those Javelins were performing. And I mentioned it in one of my previous Skidmarks, where they said, the guys that were using the stuff said only 3 out of 10 actually reached the target. And if the tank or the armored car was moving that they were shooting at, the Javelin hit that moving target and it just bounces off it and explodes. So, here's another one of those wonder weapons, the game changers. And obviously the Russians are not playing games. And then there's this little snippet from the New York Times, where they interviewed this journalist. The New York Times asks, after being trapped for months, ships loaded with grain have left Ukraine. Where are they going? Answer, one is going to England and one to Ireland. Others are headed to Italy and China. None of the ships released so far are going to Yemen, Somalia, Ethiopia or other countries facing catastrophic levels of hunger. Instead, they are going to wherever buyers want them to. They are commercial ships carrying grain for sale. The EU, and that was important to take note of. There was a big story about the grain. And look, and I've mentioned in one of my previous Skidmarks that the EU is helping to smuggle the grain from Ukraine out of Ukraine. Not for hungry people, but for the commercial markets. The Germans were part in that. They were actually stealing the Ukraine grain. I showed pictures of where Ukrainian people were protesting against the trucks of grain that were moving to Moldova. But you will starve and you will be happy. The EU is discussing the content of the 7th package of sanctions against Russia, including the issue of stopping the issuance of Schengen visas, the Cabinet of Ministers of Germany. And the idiots just don't learn. We're going to package number 7. The EU is facing the possibility of citizens freezing to death this coming winter because of energy problems that started in package 1. Now they're at package 7. Now they want to stop ordinary Russians from gaining visas to move to visit other countries. This is madness, total madness. And you have to ask yourself, who is driving this agenda? Who? I'm sure the local business people running hospitality places, running eating places and things like that, they want tourists. And they want Russian tourists because the Russian tourists spend money there. But they won't get those tourists because somebody, somewhere in the EU, in Brussels, under command of Ursula von der Crazy, has decided it will be a good plan to stop Russians from traveling. And I cannot understand how can they do something like this when they claim that they are the custodians of human rights. And yet, this is open discrimination of a racist kind against a Russian person. Swedish Minister for Integration and Migration, Anders Hjälp, issuing of Schengen visas to Russians to be included in discussion of the EU 7 sanction packet. Yes, carry on, go on, agitate the Russian nation, agitate them. The problem for Europe is the activities of the past 6 months has convinced the ordinary Russian people that Europeans hate Russians. And you must understand, that will inspire ordinary Russians to demand from their leadership to protect them against the evil West. You will be isolated in the West, and you will be under threat in the West, and you will be happy. Europe is discussing the content of the 7th package of sanctions against Russia. The issue of stopping the issuance of Schengen visas to Russians is on the agenda. The German cabinet ministers reports. There is no single position on it. After all, not everyone in the EU is ready to violate human rights. And there is a little bit of light. And I'm sure they're going to run into serious problems with this, especially from the previously Eastern countries in the EU. You must not forget many of those Eastern European countries that are now EU members either comes from Russia or has family in Russia. But you will be ridiculously discriminated against and you will be happy. Remember that. That is the mantra of Ursula and her cabal in Brussels. They live according to that mantra. And now we're in the Ukraine. Remember when the US overthrew a democratically elected government and then was caught on tape handpicking the next one? Ukraine crisis transcript of leaked Newland Pyatt call. And this was important. And the press is burying this. But you will be lied to, and you will suffer, and you will be happy. After the Maidan, the pro-Banderov pack woke up in Ukraine. If they had not done that, Ukraine would be even closer to the West today, and Russia would not feel threatened. Maidan was a catastrophic mistake of the West. But it happened, and the West is now up to its neck into debt for trying to support the results of this abortive regime change thing that they did. And all of it just to agitate Russia. A Russia that never threatened them. And then we get this. You've had enough. The US said that Ukraine has already received enough HIMARS installations. The deputy head of the Pentagon recalled that Kiev received 16 HIMARS MLRS from the United States, 3 identical M270 installations from the UK, and Germany is preparing to transfer 3 more to her. And the Russians are taking these things out quickly. The moment that they start going operational within days, those installations are gone. But yet, what has happened in practice? The West allowed Ukraine and that Zelensky Zazi to disarm them, and they gave up their weapons willingly. And then, I'm not going to read all of this, but this is a story about the military personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine steal the killed American mercenaries at the first opportunity. Correspondents of the French channel learned from them that not everything is going as they imagined. We lost 4 people because of the information we received was false. In summary, the American mercenaries said that they were disappointed and many of them want to return home. And this is what's happening, and there's been many posts about this on the chats. But, once again, the media don't pay attention to this. They keep on pushing on the Ukrainians, send them money. In the meantime, they are supporting a bunch of Zazis. And now this guy tells a story, and he's not the only one, that those Ukrainian soldiers, they strip everything off the dead mercenaries. And here's more on that. American volunteers say that their comrades died and the Ukrainians looted their corpses. And then here's a message that we all know about and everybody talks about it, but yet the West keeps on sending weapons. This is an article that is on the web where the kamikaze switchblade drones are up for sale. And then this, I just thought I would post something to lighten the mood. Ukrainian women send frontline soldiers sexy nude snaps to boost morale. Troops in the Ukraine are being given a boost by its women as they send saucy nude photographs to those battling Vladimir Putin's men. Yeah, only human. And then there's this. Servicemen of the 56th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine are killed in packs. This was stated by the head of the medical service of the unit, Anna Kornotskaya. She said that artillery has become more of a curse than a cover. Units of the 56th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine are suffering heavy losses in the battles for the village of Pesky, as it turned out also from their artillery. And then we get this disturbing message. Pentagon confirms US has sent high-speed anti-radiation missiles to Ukraine so that, as US Congressman Adam Schiff said, we can fight Russia over there and don't have to fight them over here. Meanwhile, it's the less privileged Ukrainians dying for the NATO-US agenda. Well, that's it. And we all know it. But nobody says much about it in the press. And then we've got this message. And this is a message for you people in the EU and in the US. Taxpayers of Europe and America. This is what you are funding. And this guy referenced to our own local DA. Also a political party that is infested with tentacles from the WEF. And the leader flew over to Kiev and did the photo shoot in front of a few blown up bridges and buildings. And in that whole visit proclaimed his undying support for Ukraine. Remember how the DA supported Ukraine? Knowing the humiliation that females and children also suffered under the Ukraine's Russian hatred? Hypocritical. And that is true. And look at those pictures. This is what the Ukrainians do to Russian-speaking Ukrainians. And here's another message that connects with that. Corpse robbers of Ukrainian soldiers. French report about Americans in the International Legion after a failed mission where they brought back their dead to transport, they found Ukrainians looting them of all personal effects. Low. But you will be supporting Zazis and you will be happy. And then Russia summons UN Security Council over a nuclear emergency. Moscow has called for an emergency session of the UN Security Council to discuss the situation of Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which has been the subject of regular shelling attacks. And I'm not going to read all of it, but the reality and the facts is this, and I discussed it in a previous Skidmark. The Ukrainians want us to believe that it was the Russians that are bombing the Russians. Idiots. But, how would we will be lied to, and we will be happy. And then we get to a what a fuck. And this what a fuck, apart from being a what a fuck, this is a good indication of the moral dilapidation and rot of the Western world. Transgender man who gave birth to his son criticizes medical staff for calling him mother and claims that it's important to stop automatically linking pregnancy with being a woman. What the fuck is that? In any case, they are so mentally disturbed and depraved and confused and rotten to the core, and as my grandmother would have said, they do not have respect for any good moral code. I cannot understand this. This is making me sick, and it is a real what a fuck. I cannot believe that our society has become so rotten. There's no moral compass, and we are going to pay for this. We, the people of the West, are going to pay for this. This society has become godless, and we will pay for that. And on that note, please like, subscribe, share the thing, and have a nice day. And be happy.